Thank you very much for joining us today. My sincere apologies for coming to you late, but better late than never. In today's conversation, we want to talk about the National Elections Reform Agenda, NERA. I'm sure many of you have heard of NERA in the past. It was formed in 2015, and for the sole purpose of ensuring that the electoral reforms, after struggling with electoral violence and disputed elections, and the NERA has been resuscitated. I don't know whether that's the right word. We'll hear from our guest as we'll speak to him. We are joined by Senator Douglas Mwonzora, the MDC president and NERA spokesperson. He'll be talking to us about their plans. So what's the plan with NERA? Welcome to the program, Senator.
Thank you very much, Lynette.
Yes.
And I want to thank you for inviting me, and I want to greet Zimbabweans.
Thank you very much for joining us. Before we begin, one of you are in the opposition, obviously opposition, and we have Job Scala, an MP who was incarcerated. He was in prison for over 2 years. How did you take it when he was finally released earlier this week?
Personally, I was very relieved that he was released, and I was very happy. But said at the same time, on the basis that he should not have been there in the first place. And even if he could have been in prison, he should have been released much, much earlier. But a number of factors contributed to the long stay in prison. One, of course, was the system, the system of this country, the official system of this country. But the other reason was the opposition itself that played an active part in keeping him in custody.
Is that you as well? Because
no, not me, because I tried to intervene to get him released because I had a plan. But immediately after I tried to implement that plan, there was a lot of media fight against me coming from his political party. And they said, hands off Job Scala, don't help him. But that is history now. We are happy that he is out of custody. We are also happy that the fighting spirit in him doesn't seem to have died. He seems to be a young man raring to go, and that is very refreshing. And I hope that his family are relieved now, and I know they are relieved, and I hope that his health will be taken care of. But it's a very, very good thing that he's out.
I'm sure his family is indeed relieved.
Sure.
And then coming back to the issue we're talking about here today, NERA, you are the spokesperson already. Where did we get to this point of resuscitating NERA?
Well, Lynette, Zimbabwe has had a history of disputed elections. 1980, 1985. Elections were disputed with the violence mostly against PF ZAPU. The 1990, we saw the shooting of Patrick Kombai. 1995, the playing field was so uneven that we took the government to court. I actually went to court in the Supreme Court to try to stop that election at the age of 25. I did not succeed. I was an amateur then. 2000, we also, with the formation of the MDC, the bloodletting that was there. 2002, West. Then 2005, we also saw bloodletting, but the West bloodletting was in 2008. Then in 2013, there was this talk about Nikuv and so on. 2018, fast forward, we actually ended up in the Constitutional Court as the MDC Alliance then. 2023, it was even worse than the other elections because the disputes started well before the election, with us going to the delimitation, to the court, fighting over the delimitation report, and eventually pulling out of that election. Other political parties went into the election, but they have complained as well. So the formation of NERA is an answer to perennial problem of disputed elections. We want to level our electoral playing field so that come election time, the people of Zimbabwe will express their will, and that expression will have meaning. Right now, some Zimbabweans think that their vote does not matter. NERA is to make sure that the vote matters in the sense that it is a true reflection of the will of the people. Yes, political parties and political leaders during elections must battle it out. But immediately after election, it is the time for the Zimbabwean people. Everybody must come together and work for the common good until the next election. But as a result of the disputes of election, we have seen national resentment. People don't seem to recognize a government. We have seen international ostracization of Zimbabwe. Basically, it brings everyone back. The social problems have increased. We have more poverty now. And right now, we have about 500,000 people who are out of school. Because we are not getting the international support that we must get. So NERA is there to make sure that everybody who is interested in electoral reforms comes and speaks with one voice. So we are a group of political parties, civic organization, organizations, faith-based organizations, traditional leaders who are free to come, war veterans, and so on. So we want to make sure that we engage everyone, including the government, the parliament. Parliament is a collective. We don't care which constituency or which party the MP is coming from. These are legislators. We want to engage them. We want to engage them so that when we agree on reforms, they will then transform those reforms into law, into policy.
So in case you're just joining us, you are tuned into Open Party Live here on Open Party. I'm here in the studio with Senator Douglas Mwonzora. He is the MDC president and also the NERA spokesperson. And we're talking about NERA, the vehicle. You know, it's a grouping of political parties, like he said, civil society organizations and faith-based organizations and other interested organizations that are working towards electoral reforms in Zimbabwe. Let us know in the comment section if you have a question for him, a comment, and also where you're tuning in from. Senator, if we can talk about the reforms that you're targeting, obviously when you sit down with your fellow members, you have a plan. What's the plan, and what are some of these reforms that you are looking to ensure that should be effected before the next election?
Yes, we have some reforms that we as NERA executive think must be instituted, but that's not the most important part. The most important part is to consult Zimbabweans as a collective on what reforms they want to see. That is very critically important. So there's going to be a rollout plan where we are going to have advocacy. But some of the reforms that come to mind are, for example, we still have a faulty delimitation. Remember, this delimitation is going to govern the 2028 elections. So we are not done with it yet. We have the issue of the disenfranchisement of Zimbabweans, particularly Zimbabweans within the diaspora. Some countries, including Russia, have a diaspora vote. Russians living in Zimbabwe vote in Russian elections. And Zimbabwe is a friend of Russia. Why doesn't it copy its friend? We have also the issue of the involvement of women and the girl child under our electoral system. It is a very adversarial electoral system that it puts off groups like that, the women, the youth, and especially the younger women. We want them involved. We have the issue of the impartiality of ZEC, the issue of the independence of ZEC. And here I want to zero on the subcommittees that are under ZEC. ZEC is supposed to be an independent institution in terms of Chapter 12 of our Constitution. And in terms of Section 238, there is a list of the characteristics of an independent commission. And ZEC does not pass that because some subcommittees under ZEC are populated by people from the executive. You have the accreditation committee, you have the logistics committee, etc. If you look at the composition of those committees, you see people from Foreign Affairs Ministry, Home Affairs Ministry, Justice Ministry, and the President's Office. that cannot constitute an independent commission. So we want those reforms. There are a number of reforms. We can take the whole day discussing them. But some of the reforms are actually attitudinal. The relationship of two people who are contesting an election. If we just go to the American election, for example, it's a very tense election in the sense that the people really compete, but they treat each other with respect. Governor Bush, Senator Obama, Senator McCain, and so on. But here in Zimbabwe, we call each other names, Chamatama, this and that, this and that. When it comes to Mwonzora, it's Mwonzorewa because Mwonzora comes from Manicaland, where Mzorewa comes from. So we want to remove that hate in our election system. So this may not be something legislatable, but it is something that we will be able to institute when we change the attitudes of the people of Zimbabwe.
Let's exchange ideas and not insult.
Of course, yes.
I was listening to some of the reforms that you want to effected as NERA, and I'm looking at you. You were also advocating for this just before the 2023 elections. You actually ended up not running for president in the election. You pulled out of the race because you were saying that you cannot participate in a faulty election. If people in parliament, if parties with members of parliament are failing to make this happen, how sure are you as NERA that, without member of parliament, without any members in parliament, how are you sure that you'll succeed?
Well, ZANU-PF succeeded in 1980 to actually govern the country without a single member in parliament. Parliament is not the most important vehicle. What is important are the people of Zimbabwe, to whom Parliament is actually subservient. So we are going to talk to the people of Zimbabwe. They are going to demand the reforms that they want, and they are going to instruct Parliament. Whatever is composition, we do not even mind it. They are going to instruct Parliament on what to do. And also, we are going to engage the same Parliament there. We are writing or already written a letter to the Speaker of Parliament, introducing ourselves as NERA, because we want a mutually beneficial relationship, a friendly relationship, because Parliament exists for the just and good governance of Zimbabwe. So what the Zimbabwean citizens demand, Parliament must be sensitive to. I don't have to be in Parliament to know what is good for my people. I don't have to be in Parliament to know that disenfranchising other Zimbabweans is not right. So we do not have to have members in Parliament. I think this is where many people are missing it. We simply have to have brains. We simply have to have ideas and the correct attitude. So we are going to be talking to the people of Zimbabwe who voted that parliament in the first place. We are going to speak to Zimbabweans who voted for the president and the executive that is there. And these people are going to speak to Parliament, and we are going to make sure that the reforms are there. But it's not us versus Parliament in this case. It's us working with Parliament. That is why we have respected Parliament in its composition. Whenever I meet MPs, be they from ZANU-PF, be they from the Triple C, I respect them because they are representatives of the people. And to people, they must listen. The Zimbabwean electoral system is not ideal. And Zimbabwe has a history of disputed elections, and it has suffered consequences. And it is important that parliamentarians listen.
I asked this question, and it's good that you spoke about the people of Zimbabwe, saying that you'll be getting your mandate from the people of Zimbabwe, what it is that they want, and how powerful are the people of Zimbabwe? I'm asking this question because when you go to public hearings, they raise out their concerns. But then when it does go to Parliament, majority of the times they complain that the points that they raise are not effected into whatever legislation.
That's exactly one of the reforms, bringing back power to the people. The voice of the people must matter. When President Mnangagwa talked about the voice of the people being the voice of God, he was correct, only that he didn't implement it. But the people must speak, and if they speak in unison, they will be listened to. The government did not want the constitution of Zimbabwe, the current constitution. They didn't want it, and the people of Zimbabwe demanded it, and a constitution we have. So I think Zimbabweans must come together, speak with one voice, and people will listen. The government will listen.
Polarization is, I think, has been a major problem in this country. And, judging from the previous elections, the two political parties that got the most votes are Triple C and ZANU-PF. If polarization still exists with their popularity, how will you do it as NERA? Because others have labeled you fringe political parties. Others have said you are trying to relaunch your political careers after failing in 2023. How will you do it without? I know you said it's beyond partisan politics, but how will you do it? Maybe if you can make us and the viewers understand.
Lynette, first of all, I don't come from a fringe party. I come from a party that produced a prime minister in this country. I come from a party that dominated parliament at one point in time. I come from a party that participated in the making of a constitution of Zimbabwe. I come from a party that had a leader of the opposition just about 4 months ago. So we are not fringe.
But is that
the
not
fact,
riding on the previous glory?
the fact that, I was coming there. The fact that we did not do well or we did not participate does not dilute our essence. And in NERA, the past performance of a political party in an election is not a matter of importance. The size of a political party does not matter. What matters are the ideas that come from Zimbabwe. No Zimbabwean is less important than other Zimbabweans. So if you look at the elections and confine yourself to those elections, there is one faulty thing there. This is because the majority of registered voters did not vote in this election. 2.6 million Zimbabweans stayed away of this election. And the Triple C was voted by about 1 million something people. ZANU-PF got about 2 million people. I mean, I'm talking about Advocate Chamisa and President Mnangagwa. But 2.6 million people didn't vote for them. Registered Zimbabweans, registered to vote, found no attraction in them. So people must not say if they have more numbers in parliament than other parties, they are representing the electorate more than others. Maybe the 2.6 million people listened to the voice of people who said, let's not go to this election. We have no census. We cannot dispute that. So this majoritarian argument does not make sense at all.
It's for the people of Zimbabwe and not anything else. So in case you're just joining us, you are tuned into Open Party Live here on Open Party. My name is Lynette Manzini. We're talking to Senator Douglas Mwonzora. He is the MDC president and the NERA spokesperson. He's here talking about NERA today, what NERA seeks to achieve. He's talking about the reforms and how they're trying to deal with attitude as well in us as Zimbabweans so that we can fight together towards a better election. So let us know where you're tuning in from in the comment section. Lawrence Tembedza, thank you very much for joining us. Lawrence Tembedza says we need reforms. Okay, now okay, there we go. We need reforms like yesterday. The country needs reforms for the world to take us seriously. We also have Kalonga. Thank you very much, Kalonga, for joining us. Kalonga says issues of reform are beyond partisan politics. We achieve this better together than mumwe nemumwe odzokera kupati kwake kusina vanhu or kune vanhu. Thank you very much for that. And Conrad says, NERA and Disha, I see you are getting a lot of support. I don't know whether these are your supporters already or these are the people of Zimbabwe speaking.
The issue of electoral reforms is a very popular issue. Zimbabweans are tired of fighting. Zimbabweans are tired of acrimony and hate. Zimbabweans want election time to be time of fun. And they want to elect their representatives in peace. What NERA is saying is that let's agree on the rules of the game. NERA is not saying vote out this one, vote in this one. That's not our mandate. Our mandate is to even the playing field. And we are saying, let's reason together. And we derive our inspiration from a verse in the Bible, actually. Isaiah, I've forgotten the actual verse. It says, come and let's reason together. So what we are saying, Zimbabweans, is come, let's reason together. You may want this party or that party or that party. It is okay. But let's have the rules of the game so that if you marshal the majority decision must carry the day. That is the essence of NERA.
There's a comment here. I can't read the person's name, but he's talking about Chitsotsi. He's saying he is coming again with Chitsotsi. I'm not bringing this comment to insult you, Senator, but I want us to have this conversation. People now think that, with the current developments in the political space here in Zimbabwe, the landscape, people are now seeing politicians as people who are out to benefit themselves and not for the generality of Zimbabweans. What are you doing as NERA to address this? Because people will think you're doing this for self-preservation, you're doing this to make money out of this or something like that. What are you doing to gain trust of Zimbabwe?
First of all, I want to directly answer this person because he's talking about me and thinking that I am some criminal, some dishonest person. And let me just give briefly. In 1997, I took the government of the day to court over the fairness of the political party funding. In 2000, I was one of the Zimbabweans who voted no in the referendum because we wanted a people-driven constitution. In 2008, I led, together with others, the crafting of one of the best constitutions on the African continent. I always got, in my party, all the positions I have got, I was elected by people who know me better. So I am not, as some people try to characterize me. I'm a well-meaning Zimbabwean. I have not been convicted of any offense and so on. So when it comes to the issue of people who badmouth others, because for some people, if they don't form something, if they don't form the thing, then it is not good. It is only good if it is done by them. Now, brothers and sisters, the Zimbabwe was there. The people who wanted to, who needed to initiate electoral reforms, the chance was there. Why didn't you? Why didn't they? Now, a group of Zimbabweans, conscientious Zimbabweans, have come together to say, let's do this together. This is a good initiative. It is non-partisan. It is good for our people. It is good for our country. It is good for our placement in the international community. And what do you receive? You are a criminal, and so on. But this hate is just persisting because some people have temporarily gained traction because of hate, but it's waning now. And Lynette, you talked about past glory. What is not past glory? The people who won elections in 2023, that is already past. If you were to put them before the same electorate, we don't know what that electorate's attitude would be. So yes, all of us are people who are talking about history. So if you say, I am the most popular political leader here, you are talking about your performance in 2023 August. But is that still the case today? If you say, well, I want this, you are talking about when you won at a certain stage in history. It is history, just like I am saying also that don't rule me down too much, because look at my history. I have done good things. It is history. Everybody is talking history here.
It is history. We mustn't look you down too much. We have a comment here from Tatenda. Thank you very much, Tatenda, but I'm not going to read that comment. We're going to move on to Takudzwa. Takudzwa says, we are tired with all this talking. Let's just act. We are at the edge. What is your comment as NERA?
He is correct. But before we act, we must plan. And that is why right now we have started with the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding, because you must have certain principles that bind people. We have seen examples where if you just get together as a group of people without anything binding you, it's a recipe for disaster. So there's a Memorandum of Understanding. It has been signed by 26 political parties now. At the time that I came to this office, to this studio, about 4 political parties were asking how to join. We have made sure that it remains open to everyone. ZANU PF, we invited it. The Triple C, we invited them, and they didn't turn up on the signing day. But of course, regarding the Triple C, there are some of its officials who have now indicated that they want to join others in the National Electoral Reform Agenda. When they will come, we don't know, but they are welcome.
We don't know which faction
yes,
it is.
we don't even care. I mean, we don't even care which faction it is.
As long as they're Zimbabwean.
It is not our duty as the NERA to pry in what is happening in political parties. That's not our business, because political parties are voluntary organizations that have certain rules or conducts that bind them. So every Zimbabwean, including the Triple C people, are free to participate in this very noble objective. We are going to go to the people of Zimbabwe. That is the action that my friend may be talking about. Hearing from the people of Zimbabwe, and then after that, we gather what the reforms, the exact reforms that we want, and we push them to be implemented. There we want the energy of everyone. Those who want to action, then there is your opportunity. Take action, galvanize the people to come to the town hall meetings that we are going to have, the rallies that we are going to have, the village consultations we are going to have, the church consultations we are going to have. If you really want action, come there. Let's see you in action, galvanizing everyone.
I don't want to make this about Triple C, but when we advertised this show today and posted a poll on Twitter, some went into the comment section and was saying, if Chamisa is not involved in NERA, if Triple C is not in NERA, then it's not going to be effective. Already you're saying Triple C has, some people in the Triple C, but specifically Chamisa. What is he a part of NERA? And what is your comment to these critics who are saying that if Chamisa is not part of this, then it isn't effective?
Let me start by saying, I, as Douglas Mwonzora, have nothing against Advocate Chamisa. I have no personal issues with him, personal differences with him. He is a Zimbabwean just like me, and he is free to participate in NERA if he so wishes, and he is welcome. His absence or lack of absence does not affect the efficacy of NERA. NERA is not about political leaders. It is not about individuals. It is about the collective, the people of Zimbabwe. So the people of Zimbabwe are going to speak with or without an individual leader. And if the Advocate Chamisa wants to, has comments, has contributions to make to NERA, he is free to do that, and we will take them with all the seriousness. But when people individualize a program, they are making a mistake. If somebody is a star, they don't remain that forever. Let's just go to soccer. We had George Shire. He was one of the best player of when I started knowing soccer. Then we had Moses Chunga. And we thought there is no other footballer. Then we had Peter Njov. Then we said, no, there is no other footballer. Then we have Knowledge Msona. And now we see youngsters playing well. So I don't want us to individualize and make comments that make certain leaders think that they should not participate. Our people, our supporters, their duty is to bring leaders together and not to divide them. The bringing in of Chamisa's name is meant just to divide the people. He is free to participate. He is welcome to participate. We are interested in his ideas. And should he think that electoral reforms are necessary in this country, then he should do the correct thing.
We have a comment here from Jeffrey. Jeffrey, thank you very much for joining us. Jeffrey says, don't worry, Mr. President Mwonzora, even Jesu pakauya vanhu havana kumutenda vaitomutuka, but knowing kuti ndiye mambo wavo. I see a lot of your supporters in this comment section, but thank you very much for joining us.
They are not my supporters. They are supporters of the idea. This is a good idea.
Okay. You spoke about the reforms that you want to implement. You spoke about the memorandum, that you signed recently as political parties. And you say the next step is to go out to Zimbabweans and find out what it is that they want. Speak to them, gather information around how they want you to go forward. How long will this process go? And after that, what then happens? Because I think it's important to hold each other accountable. We should come back to NERA. I should call you back here, after the time frame that you're talking about, or in between, to find out how things are going. And by the time we get to 2028, we want you to be showing us receipts of, of everything that you call success in this project.
Thank you very much, Lynette, for that very, very important question. Fortunately, we are going to have a PCM meeting, the Principal Consultative Meeting. And this is a meeting of all the leaders, church leaders, civic society organization leaders, and political leaders, where we are going to agree on the rollout plan. But we are very conscious that it's not enough to talk about reform and write about them. We must implement them. So in our scheme of things, there is going to be a time for consultation. I'm unable right now to tell you how long, whether it is 2 years, 1 year, but then there will be time for implementation of those reforms that have come from the people. That is the time where you are approaching your parliament to say we need a law that that facilitates the diaspora vote, for example. We need a specific law that implements the 50-50 gender parity principle. We need this and we need that. And the parliament then puts it in place. Everything being constant, the parliament makes the laws. And then we start implementation way before the election, such that when the time of the election comes, it is being done in terms of a reformed system. By the way, we are going to be engaging ZEC as well, because it is a critical player. So we have engaged it before anyway, during the time of Rita Makarau, and even during the time of Priscilla Chigumba as chairpersons, we worked hand in glove with them. And I want to tell you and tell Zimbabweans that NERA has achieved quite a lot for this country before. When NERA was formed in 2015, it fought for the biometric voter registration system. 2016, we agreed with ZEC, with the government, that there should be a biometric voter registration system here in Zimbabwe. We also agreed on the procurement of the biometric voter registration kits. It was above board. We also insisted that we must be involved, political parties must be involved in mapping polling stations. In 2018, you saw less disputes about polling stations. That was the initiative of NERA. It was good for Zimbabwe. And right now, we want to resuscitate that, not for the benefit of my party or his party or her party, but for the benefit of all Zimbabweans.
It's for the benefit of all Zimbabweans. So in case you're just joining us, you are tuned into Open Pali Live. Here on Open Pali, we are talking to Senator Douglas Mwonzora. He is the MDC president and the spokesperson for NERA, that's the National Elections Reform Agenda, and he's just walking us through their plans as a grouping. It's a grouping of political parties and civil society organizations faith-based organizations and other interested stakeholders. You spoke about one of the reforms you spoke about earlier on was to ensure that the executive are not involved in ZEC. And, this has been a sticking point for a very long time. I know I'm putting you on the spot, maybe because you still have to discuss this with the others. But the question that comes to mind is, how are you going to do this? I'm asking this on the backdrop that ZANU-PF has been clear that they will not reform themselves out of power. If they do have this executive in strategic positions, it's for them to maintain their power. How do you think you're going to navigate this situation now as NERA?
The purpose of reforms is not to put anybody out of power. So I've heard ZANU-PF people saying that. I think it was Muchangwa the other time, and Jonathan Moy at one point in time said that. They are totally mistaken. The aim of reform is not to get anybody out of power. In some countries where reforms have been instituted, it has entrenched the ruling elite. They've got their power. The purpose of an electoral system, reforming an electoral system, is to make sure that it is even, it is less subject to dispute. What help is it to win an election and you remain under international isolation? What benefit did you get to win an election? You apply for the Commonwealth, and they tell you that one of the conditionalities is that make your electoral system better. And Zimbabwe is under sanctions, they say. They agree with that. And one of the conditionalities is elections, sort out your election system. So this reform benefits everyone, benefits the government, benefits ZANU-PF, benefits the opposition, benefits everyone in Zimbabwe. And the ZANU-PF benefits from electoral reforms. By the way, at one point in time, the MDC got a lot of traction because it was fighting for the constitution. That was in the 2000. We went into that election that is saying that we will bring in a new constitution. And ZANU-PF was resisting, so they gave us a manifesto. Now, if ZANU-PF resists these electoral reforms, they are giving the opposition a credible manifesto. They are making the opposition even stronger. So it doesn't make sense for them to resist what the people of Zimbabwe want.
You have your work cut out for you as NERA, trying to unite each and every Zimbabwean. I'm just going to go into the comment section because it's important for us to recognize our viewers who are joining us. We have Mutuma Ngwena. Thank you very much for joining us. Mutuma says ZANU-PF is welcomed in NERA, or is ZANU-PF. Is ZANU-PF welcomed in NERA, or is it just for opposition minds? I think he addressed this, but I'll allow him to say this again. Jeffrey, thank you very much for joining us. We have Joelson Mugari says, reforms for a better Zimbabwe. Reforms for a better Zimbabwe elections. Disputed elections are suffocating the citizens of Zimbabwe. We have Shadrick Liwayo says Mwonzora is talking sense, and it is only after we have the electoral reforms that we can have free, fair, and credible elections. Lawrence Tembedza says, can you understand what is NERA all about? It's not about activism. Always Hashita Shandi. If you can just respond to Mutuma, who says, is ZANU-PF? I know you had spoken, maybe he should say from the...
Yeah, thank you, Mutuma, for that question. ZANU-PF is a political party. Yes, it is a political party that is also in government, but it is a political party. It has supporters. It has ideas about the electoral system. And for that reason, we actually invited it. We have invited it to take part in NERA, and we have invited their supporters to attend NERA meetings should we call for public meetings. So yes, they are welcome. They are welcome to participate. The government is going to be engaged as well, maybe through the Ministry of Justice, because the Minister of Justice initiates legislation through the Parliament. And as we have already seen, the parties in Parliament are going to be engaged on two lanes. Well, with the exception of ZANU-PF, it will be on three lanes. But for Triple C, it is on two lanes. First, as a member of parliament, the Triple C, we are going to engage it, whether they join NERA or not. But as a member of parliament, we are going to join it. Then we are going to talk to it. And then as a political party, it is free to participate in NERA. ZANU-PF as a political party is free to participate in NERA. As a party in parliament, we will consult it, we will approach it. As a government, we will talk to them as well. So we are going to talk to everyone. Whether they will accept to talk to us or not, it's still too early to say, and we don't know. We wish they would talk to us, and we have no reason to think why they will not talk to us. But they are welcome. But most importantly, through NERA, we are reinstating the principle which is in our constitution, the sovereignty of the people, the right, the absolute power of the people to decide. We hope that Zimbabweans are going to speak their minds on this very important subject.
On that note, Senator, unfortunately, we have run out of time, but I'd like to thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Lynette.
There you have it, viewers. That was Senator Douglas Mwonzora. He is the MDC president and the spokesperson for NERA, which is the National Elections Reform Agenda. He was just walking us through their plans and responding to critics who have been saying that, this is a platform to resuscitate individuals' political careers. But he says that they as a collective are doing this for free and fair elections, credible elections, so that we are no longer isolated as a country. Remember, the world is now a global village, and we need to be a part of it. And right now, we're kind of disqualified or isolated because of our elections. So thank you very much for joining us. Until next time, my name is Lynette Manzini. Goodbye.